Hello everyone and welcome to Retail Archaeology and Hemet, California. If you're not familiar with Hemet, it's a city in inland California that's about 85 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Hemet is a pretty unremarkable city, but there are two things here that I find interesting. One of them is that there's a very large compound that belongs to a certain church that Tom Cruise and John Travolta are members of, and there's also an old mall here. So here we are at Hemet Valley Mall. Now, this is a mall that I actually got requests from more than a few viewers to check out, saying that it was a dead mall, and I had actually been to Hemet before, but I didn't even realize there was a mall here. So I looked it up on Google and started reading reviews, and there were a lot of bad reviews saying that it was a dead mall, more than half the stores were closed. So that's what I was expecting to walk into. There's a neat little sun mosaic there. Besides the reviews, there wasn't much else I could find out about this mall. There's a short Wikipedia article about it, and that's really about it. There's not even very many old pictures of it out there. It was built in 1980 and received a multi-million-dollar renovation in 2016, and that's really it. That's all the info out there on this place. This is also a pretty small mall. It doesn't even have a proper food court. The front entrance that we just walked in through kind of serves as its food court. There's a couple of restaurants there, and then there's some more seating in the center point, and that's about it. Let's take a look at the map so you can see how small this place is. It's anchored by a JCPenney, which is original to the mall, and also a Hobby Lobby, which that opened as a Harris Company department store when the mall opened, and then the blank spot up top was a Sears, which was added in 1998, but that closed back in 2020. Oh look, skylights. And actually those skylights I believe are kind of important to the aesthetic of this mall, because even though it was renovated in 2016, you still kind of see some of those 1980s mall bones. That's always a good sign when there's a police station at the mall. Here's a closer look at the recently closed Sears store, and it looks like they were using it as a vaccination site recently. It's kind of sad. Every time I come across a Sears store now, it's a former Sears store. I gotta get somewhere where there's still one that's open and see how they're doing. Here's a look inside there, and you can tell this was definitely a Sears. It's amazing how many of the fixtures are still left there. Here's a little bit of a clearer look through a less dusty window. Something else I came across while doing research for this video was the mall's website, and this is what it currently looks like. This is not from the Wayback Machine. This looks very early 2000s to me. I can't believe their website still looks like this. You can see there's even a blank spot for an old Flash plugin thing there. But we can take a look at the store directory, and it gives us a pretty good list of the stores that are still here, and it's actually kind of a decent mix of national chains and then local mom and pop shops. Of course, there's a Bath & Body Works here. Something I found funny too is if you look at the top here on the banner, it says your place to shop for over 27 years. Well, I guess that's kind of right, because it is over 27 years, but 27 plus 1980 is 2007, so that's probably the last time this website's design was updated. Let's take a trip in the Wayback Machine, though, and the earliest version of this website I could find was from back in 2010, and you can see it looks just the same, the design and everything, but there is a list of stores here, and we can get an idea of what was at this mall 11 years ago. There's a few more national chains listed here than there are now. Oh look, there's Radio Shack. God, I miss Radio Shack. That's another place I need to get to, is one of the new Radio Shack stores that have opened. It would be pretty neat to see Radio Shack make a comeback, but let's go back to the mall itself now. And you can see the way that you got to this Sears was through this kind of weird hallway, so you can tell that this was added on after the mall was built. I love the use of stock photos here. Everybody always looks so happy to be at the mall and spending money in these pictures, but that's rarely something I see in malls anymore. Goofy stock photos aside though, I do like that they went with like a bold color in this remodel and everything's not just beige and travertine like tile and stuff. I actually really don't hate this remodel. There's a look at the JCPenney there. See, I even like this pillar that they did here. They've obviously done like simulated neon. That's LED lighting, obviously, but it's still a nice nod to the mall's past. See, and even though everything looks remodeled, these skylights I think do remind you that this place has a little bit of history to it. And the TV screens are neat too. Now there are vacant stores here and there, but contrary to what Google reviews and some viewers have told me, there's a lot more than half the store is occupied here. I wouldn't call this mall busy at all. I mean, the traffic here is actually pretty similar to what I would call a dead mall, but I was surprised to see so many open storefronts. Now, most of them are mom and pop shops now, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know what else you do with a little mall like this in a city like Hemet, where the population's only around 85,000, and also just while driving through town, it was very obvious that this place had been very hard hit by the last couple of recessions. But there is still a hot topic here. I'm sure there's still some edgy teenagers somewhere that live in Hemet. Now let's take a look at the stupidest prize game I've ever seen at a mall. Some of them just have wads of what are supposedly $100 bills. I mean, they're made to look real, obviously, but that can't be real. There can't be just hundreds and hundreds and, thousands of dollars in this machine. Now, here's a store with some cool neon, and I think this is a mom and pop boutique. I don't believe that's a national chain. I couldn't find any other locations but this one. And right across from it is Men's Trends. And even though this is a dead mall, all the kiosks seem to be occupied, including this one with a regular Sonic the Hedgehog and then the old movie design Sonic the Hedgehog. I wonder if that's officially licensed. So all the way down on the other end is the Hobby Lobby, the other open anchor, which, like I mentioned earlier in the video, was originally a Harris Company department store, but in 1999 it became a Harris Gottschalk store, which then closed 10 years later in 2009. After that, it was a Forever 21, I guess, for a while, and that eventually closed, and now you've got the Hobby Lobby. Forever 21 seems like a weird anchor for this mall, but Hobby Lobby I think makes sense because a large chunk of Hemet's population is retired people. And right next to it we have another empty store. I'm surprised Hobby Lobby isn't using this to house its stolen artifacts, but that's a subject for a different video. The Hobby Lobby actually seemed fairly busy, so hopefully some of that business is trickling its way out into the mall. Yeah, I have to say, I really don't dislike this remodel. I even like that they went with like faux wood floors with then some brown tile. That is very 80s and 90s aesthetic still, I believe, even though it's new. From the few older images I could find of this place, it did used to have, the brick planter benches and stuff, and those unfortunately have been replaced with things like massage chairs and those stupid rip-off prize games. But really, things could be much worse here. As far as size and shape of this mall goes and its situation, it reminds me a lot of the mall that I filmed in Indio. And that one, unfortunately, hasn't been maintained at all. It hasn't been remodeled, for better or for worse, and it looks terrible. This place, on the other hand, looks pretty nice. It seems like now that people are kind of getting back out into the world and looking for things to do, that malls are kind of, having a little bit of a resurgence, even dead malls, so maybe that explains why this place doesn't look as dead as its reputation was. It'll be interesting to see what this place looks like, a year or two from now. The current owners of this mall, MC Strauss, purchased it in 2003, and they're responsible for the 2016 renovation, and I have to say, it looks like they're doing a pretty decent job trying to keep this place alive. Even though malls seem to be kind of experiencing a boom right now, I still think they have a lot of long-term problems, and I actually think it's these smaller, older malls that might have a better chance of weathering the storm. They seem to have an easier time adapting to leasing out to smaller mom-and-pop shops, and also these older, smaller malls tend not to be loaded with debt. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how well Hemet does in the future, though, too. It doesn't seem like they've weathered all of the different economic crises we've had over the years very well. I am glad we stopped in Hemet to check this place out, even though it didn't meet the expectations that I had of it being a dead mall with all the bad reviews and everything. I still found it to be a pretty neat little mall. What are your thoughts on this place, though? Is Hemet Valley Mall somewhere you used to go when you were growing up? I'd love to know down in the comments below. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/Retail Archaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my video on Hemet Valley Mall. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also make sure to follow at the social media links down there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the channel. Man, it was nice to travel again, and I'm really excited to show you guys all the neat stuff that we saw. Thanks for watching, everyone.